Brazil football has gone from the highs of samba to a muted, somber face. The five-time world champions suffered a 1-4 defeat against Argentina in the World Cup qualifiers.
The strange thing about empires is that they rarely collapse all at once. First, the fear disappears. Then the belief. Then, one day, people stop expecting greatness altogether. That's exactly what has happened to Brazil. The badge is still there. The history is still there. But the feeling is gone. And hidden beneath years of disappointment is a story far darker than most football fans realize.
Here's Zino, the man who might get it. Pelé to fail, here goes Pelé!
Before the criticism, before the doubts, there was a time when Brazil had one of the most intimidating players in the game. The thing that made Brazil dangerous was never a clever system or a stronger group of athletes. It was the fear of facing something you simply could not prepare for. The danger was not drawn on a tactical board. It lived inside players who grew up on dirt streets with no coaches watching, no formations to follow, and no rules about what was allowed. The world felt this at full strength in 1958 in Sweden. A 17-year-old named Pelé scored a hat trick against France in the semifinal, then 2 more in the final, becoming the youngest goal scorer in World Cup final history. The Swedish defender Sigvard Parling stood on the pitch afterwards and later admitted he wanted to applaud the man who had just taken him apart. A professional defender wanting to clap for the person who ruined his evening is not good manners. That is what it looks like when one country makes everyone else feel like they are playing a different sport. By 1970, that fear had turned into something close to certainty. Italy reached the final in Mexico with one of the tightest defenses in Europe and lost 4-1. The Italian defender Tarcisio Bergnic was told to mark Pelé and reminded himself beforehand that Pelé was only a man made of skin and bones. After the final whistle, his words were short. "I was wrong." Brazil's 4th goal used 9 players and 26 passes in a row. Finished so calmly by Carlos Alberto that it looked less like an attack and more like a country inventing the game in real time. That mix of joy, precision, and total surprise is what made the shirt terrifying. For decades, it never faded. And then it did. This is the part of the story everyone forgets. Brazil already knew what losing felt like. On the 16th of July, 1950, the Maracanã in Rio held an estimated 200,000 people, all there to watch Brazil win the World Cup at home against Uruguay. A Rio newspaper printed, "These are the world champions" that morning, before a ball was kicked. The players were handed gold watches engraved with those exact words before the match. Uruguay scored in the 79th minute, and 200,000 voices went silent in a way every witness called unlike anything before or since. People died of heart attacks inside the ground. The goalkeeper, Moacir Barbosa, carried the blame for the rest of his life, turned away from the national team camp 4 decades later because staff thought he was bad luck. He told reporters, "The maximum prison sentence in Brazil is 30 years. I have already done 50. That is what Brazilian football culture does with grief. It finds someone and leaves the weight there forever. Brazil even changed their white kit to green and yellow through a national design contest, building a brand new identity out of one lost match. The 1970s team buried those ghosts in Mexico, and the world assumed the wound had healed for good. It had not. It had only gone quiet. The 2002 World Cup in Japan and South Korea was the last time Brazil made the planet feel the old dread, and they did it almost out of spite. Ronaldo, written off as a player whose body had already broken, came back from 2 full knee rebuilds to score 8 goals in a single tournament. His 2 goals in the final came after Germany's goalkeeper Oliver Kahn, who had conceded 1 goal in the whole tournament, spilled a Rivaldo shot straight to Ronaldo's feet. When the best goalkeeper alive makes that mistake in a final, it tells you something about the fear Brazil still carried into a room. Look closely at that squad, and you see why it worked. Ronaldinho was 21 and had spent 1 season in Paris, still almost entirely Brazilian in every instinct. Rivaldo built his whole game inside Brazilian clubs before leaving for Europe at 24. Cafu lifted the trophy as the only man to play in 3 World Cup finals in a row. 5 stars on the shirt, Nobody at that parade in Yokohama knew they were watching the final act. The production line that built Pelé, Garrincha, Rivellino, Zico, Romário, and Ronaldo was already shutting down on every street and dirt pitch in the country. The trophy hit it. The decline had already begun. 12 years later, everyone finally saw it. The semifinal on the 8th of July, 2014, did not create Brazil's fall. It just made the fall impossible to ignore. Neymar, the face of the whole campaign, was gone after a Colombian defender's knee cracked his third vertebra in the quarterfinals. The team doctor told him 2 centimeters in another direction, and a wheelchair was a real possibility. Captain Thiago Silva was suspended in the same match. The star and the leader, both gone, for the game that decided a home final. Germany scored in the 11th minute, then the 23rd, then the 24th, then the 26th, then the 29th. 5 goals in 18 minutes. The Brazilian players stood in positions no plan had given them, staring at each other with looks that had no football word attached to them. They were not just being beaten. The thing holding the team together had already collapsed before the 4th goal, and 60,000 people felt it happen without being able to name it. Germany's manager, Joachim Löw, told his players at halftime, 5 goals up, to stop celebrating and stay respectful. Thomas Müller said years later that it felt strange and uncomfortable to watch. The team doing the damage felt bad about how easily the damage came. David Luiz cried on his knees while goals were still going in, and afterwards spoke straight into the cameras. "I just wanted to see my people smile." The press called it the Minerazo, a deliberate echo of 1950. Both wounds came from the exact same place. A nation had bet its whole identity on a sport without noticing that the foundation of that identity had been quietly disappearing for 30 years. So here is the real answer to why the fear is gone. The factory that built it closed. Pelé learned barefoot on dirt in Bauru with nobody coaching him. Garrincha played with a grapefruit before a real ball arrived. Ronaldinho said his most famous moves were built in tight futsal spaces with 0 adult instruction, and that he lied to his mother to stay on the street instead of going to school. That mix of poverty, open space, and unstructured time was not a pretty background to Brazilian greatness. It was the actual factory where the beautiful game was manufactured, and that factory is gone. The World Bank put Brazil's urban population at 88% in 2024, one of the fastest shifts from countryside to city in modern history, squeezed into 2 generations. The open spaces where street football lived were swallowed by apartment blocks and replaced by European-style academies that Brazilian clubs built in the 1990s. A São Paulo footballer named Lauro Nascimento told AFP in May 2024 that nobody plays in the street anymore, and that you no longer hear stories about the kick that broke somebody's window. The field where he grew up is now 2 apartment buildings. Those academies gave players discipline, fitness, and athletic power. What they killed was the one thing that always made the magic: the freedom to fail in ways no coach would ever allow, on bad surfaces, for hours, completely alone, until improvising became something that happened before the brain even asked for permission. Then there is the drain. Between 2020 and 2025, the CIS Football Observatory counted 3,020 Brazilian players in pro leagues outside the country, far more than any other nation on earth. People call that proof Brazil still produces talent. It is actually proof of the deepest identity drain in football history, because the age that pipeline starts at has been dropping for 20 years. Watch how the timing changed. Ronaldo joined PSV at 17 after 58 senior games for Cruzeiro. Ronaldinho joined Paris at 21, already fully formed. Those players carried Brazil in their bones, and no club could remove what was planted too deep. Now Vinicius Jr. left Flamengo for Real Madrid at 18 with 37 senior games. Endrick signed for Real Madrid at 17. They leave before Brazilian identity has time to set, and the clubs that get them build Champions League winners instead of street artists, because those are genuinely different things. The numbers tell the rest. ESPN found that across 5 full seasons for Brazil, Vinicius scored 5 international goals. Juninho Pernambucano scored 77 direct free kick goals, a world record built through thousands of lonely teenage hours in Recife. Bruno Guimarães ran over 423 kilometers in one Premier League season and has scored 0 direct free kicks for Brazil in 3 years. And the scoreboard agrees. Brazil has not knocked a single European nation out of a World Cup since 2002. France, the Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, Croatia. 5 tournaments, 5 European opponents, 5 exits. Carlo Ancelotti, the first permanent foreign head coach in Brazil's history, took them to 5th in 2026, qualifying with 28 points, the worst campaign they have ever recorded. They reached the tournament only because FIFA expanded it to 48 teams. That is why Brazil stopped being scary. The shirt is still yellow. The fear that used to come with it was built on dirt streets that no longer exist. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Brazil can ever be terrifying again?